all the way back in 1.5, we were introduced to the Uluru Games, the sports competition for arcanists. While almost lost to time, it was brought back with the help of Spathodea, Ezra, and friends. The Uluru Games is a competition where everyone is equal, an event that unites people together under the banner of sportsmanship. The main event is held at the Uluru Rock and to a fervent crowd of those cheering for their favorite competitors. In this event, we see how people come to settle their differences and go together. But I'm here to talk about the story after the revival of the Uluru Games. After all, this is a video about Chronicles of Uluru, London Dawning. Let's set the stage. London Dawning, of course, takes us to London in the 1930s, which the game explicitly states is some years before the Great Smog of London in 1952. It is the perfect place to have an Uluru episode there, as sports culture is deeply ingrained into the UK. With Tooth Fairy here, the theme of identity makes an appearance once more, and that will be the main focus of this video. However, there are two other themes present in the story as well, that being unity for the Uluru Games and community that weaves the two themes together. The main story of 2.3 mainly centers around Willow, so I'll talk about her first. Willow, also known as Charlotte O'Hagan, is a 6-star Planet of Flatus character. Her name, Willow, is really interesting to me. It matches her Planet of Flatus, showing her connection to Druidism and witches, Druidism being focused on worshipping nature, and symbolizes rebirth and the ability to withstand difficult situations. Willow is weaved into effigies of pagans and is burnt as offerings in Druidism. We even see this in-game. This is like she's mocking herself and Druidism by naming herself that. It's also representative of how she burns herself out for the sake of her craft. The floor ritual. Fire elements are present in her skill animations and art, and her birthday, which is on the same day as Samhain, where rituals like bonfires happen. Willow starts the story as sort of a boogeyman, with how the people of Cross Street call her the fog hag and blame all the tuberculosis problems on her. She never leaves her house, and her gloomy garden is the neighborhood dumpster, which does not help her reputation. We can very easily say that the community does not like her. We only see Willow face to face when Flutter Page comes to deliver Willow her snails, bringing along Tooth Fairy, who is here to investigate the black fog. While Willow isn't the most welcoming, understandably so, she immediately tells them to get out when the word Uluru steps from Flutter Page's mouth. The Uluru Games. To Willow, the Uluru Games is something that she can only dream of now due to her disability. She used to be the one who stood on that podium under the blazing Australian sun, holding the gold medal. But now, she can only move rigidly with her prosthetic leg. She sees the prosthetic leg that was supposed to help her as an embarrassment and an inconvenience. A parasitic relationship. Not only does she not leave her house because it is hard to do so, she's also ashamed of this leg, seeing as how when Flutter Page comes in to check on her, the first thing she does is grabbing a blanket to cover her legs. This prosthetic leg is high maintenance as well. The ointment she uses all have to be handmade, as any pre-made ones would be expensive. Willow either has to make do with what she has, or simply endure through the pain. And lastly, she has to rely on others to get the snail mucus for the ointment, something that she only does out of necessity, but it is what brings the two outcasts of Cross Street together. While Willow does teach Flutter Page arcane skills after she has collected the snails to make sure she doesn't owe her anything, a part of me believes that she does so because she cares for Flutter Page as well, but doesn't want to admit it. I'll get to this later. The snails are used to show how Willow's self-isolation hurts her. When Flutter Page is not there to help her, she has to walk to the store by herself, with that troublesome prosthetic leg. As she looks into the distance, she spots what seems to be an old rope or an old boot. No, it seems to be a black swan. The black swan is seen as a marvel of nature. It has beautiful black feathers, and when under the shine of the sun, they dazzle iridescently. That's when all the other animals look on and feel inferior. They can never stand out from the crowd in the same way. Black swans are naturally found in Australia. Like the gold medals of the Uluru Games, they both represent the dazzle of being on top. Being first place means shining the brightest, like the sun outshining everything else. But the swan that Willow spots is just a normal swan covered in soot, dying alone. Willow sees herself in the swan and speaks to herself.
How ridiculous it looks now, wearing that false disguise. The poor thing, it must have been covered accidentally.
And then later on,
You're not some special black swan that was born to greatness. You're nothing but...
Miss Willow, what's wrong with your leg?
but a cripple.
The psychological toll that the loss of Willow's leg had on her is immense. She has locked herself up in her own house, not opening up to anyone, withering in isolation. Her talking to herself in the swan scene is her trying to keep herself company. From Willow's side story, we see that her psyche has split into her current self and her childhood self. One part that wants to live in the past, and the other that scorns her past actions. Even before Willow lost her leg, she was harsh on herself, with her being under the strict care of her teachers like the toxic gymnastics culture. She would sacrifice everything in pursuit of that gold medal, and only that gold medal. She would take nothing short of perfection. She put herself to such high standards that made it so that when she fell, it felt like she was being dropped from the greatest of heights. She does all of this for the gold medal, but I've always wondered, does she even enjoy her sport? My original hypothesis with a blend of projection was that Willow has a love-hate relationship with the floor ritual. That she only enjoyed the sport as a child, but as Willow grew up, things like glory and chasing the gold medal got to her head. But when Flutter Page asked if Willow enjoyed doing what she did, she only answered that she liked the cake that she would get after competitions. So this brings me to my second hypothesis, one that I'd say is more accurate than whatever nonsense I thought of, that she started the floor ritual to stand out from her peers. Willow became a floor ritualist to live life as someone who could be proud of herself. It made sense. She was always after the gold medal and the image of being the undisputed champion. While she couldn't hang out with her childhood friends, if I had to regularly miss school for special activities, I would feel special as well. I would feel unique from the others, standing out like a black swan under the sun. Even with my little YouTube channel thing going on, whenever I bring up having to edit a video or the struggles of writing scripts, I honestly swell up with pride in having an activity that no one around me is engaged in. She may have developed a budding passion for the sport later, but I'd say that isn't her main motivation. The reason for her continuing to stick by the floor ritual was because that was the only thing she had left. Willow could not escape the shadow of the sun that was the gold medal. Once you obtain a gold medal, you will always be hungering for it and nothing less. Willow had invested so much time and effort into her craft that she had nothing left. Those were all her eggs in the same basket. And having not lived any other lives except that of a floor ritualist, she was scared, but also prideful. Scared of doing things that she hasn't done before, but also unable to back down and live a normal life like others. This is also coupled with how little she values her own career outside of the gold medal. When Willow reunites with Caroline, she discredits her own achievements while also pushing Caroline away. Even though Caroline is seen as the current creme de la creme while imitating Willow, she tells her to stop chasing this fading star because she is now a nobody. You are either the sun or the shadow beneath it. Willow's heavy reliance on how the people around her perceive her is also another reason why I think she is a plant character, other than her plant motifs. Plant arcanists show a deep care for their environment, whether it be Marcus and the Lighthouse or Vila with Rayashiki. And for Willow, it is how she wants to be seen as special. And as for myself, I do relate to some aspects of Willow's character. I get that feeling of wanting to stand out. I get the feeling of chasing perfection, stumbling and rising again for an impossible ideal, because the feeling of reaching for the sun does not beat any other wave of joy. I don't want to be a mediocre actress. I just want to be moved by the perfect show. But well, I think it's due time we talk about Flutter Page as well, since we need to understand both characters to understand the core theme of this patch. I got way too carried away to talking about Willow. I do think she is a very interesting character after all. Flutter Page, also known as Liberty Grove, is a 6-star character. She got the name from Lamplighter, and we get to see how she received it in her character story. It came from when she used her arcane skill on a piece of paper, which is the page. And as the page was held up by the wind, it fluttered. Flutter Page's curiosity and desire for freedom, in the sense of not needing to be constricted by rules, is shown by her star Afflatus. Her desire to learn more of the world can also be seen by her having the ability to use Eureka. In the story, Flutter Page acts as Willow's foil. Both of them are ostracized by the community, one of the two other themes of this patch. Willow is ostracized from being called the Fog Hag, and Flutter Page from her being herself and asking quote-unquote way too many questions. The people of Cross Street are disgusted by Willow and see Flutter Page as an annoyance. Basically, both are seen as better without. Another thing is that while Willow scrutinizes her every move unless it is perfect, Flutter Page simply enjoys doing the task and she doesn't hold herself up to rigid standards. Flutter Page's curiosity as a child is why I love her. Her writing is realistic and reminds me of how I was a child back then, pestering my parents with all the whys I could think of. As a child, of course, she is not book smart. In her character story, we can see how she becomes more aware of her surroundings. I love how Reverse portrays how stories are used to tell children to stay away from places, as growing up, tales like "do not eat while lying down, otherwise you'll turn into a snake" would always make me follow the rules. Flutter Page, of course, is associated with birds. To be more specific, the canary. The bright yellow color of the canary symbolizes happiness and good luck. It also shows how Flutter Page is not jaded like Willow. It's not like Flutter Page hasn't experienced the pains of the world. She definitely has. But she's just starting to flap her wings. Because Flutter Page is new to the world, we see how she feels lost as the world around her tries to constrain her in the box, even though it is not what she wishes for. My favorite Flutter Page moment is when she was up on the bell tower, pondering why all the people were so confusing to her. They were worried about her, yet she is safe. They want her to come down, but also not. She always thought that the world was a round fish tank with a goldfish in it, but then sees it as a square rigid in its own ways. One that doesn't allow for anything different from it. But she isn't alone on the bell tower this time. Tooth Fairy followed her up the stairs, and she consoles Flutter Page. Tooth Fairy tells Flutter Page that people only change when it benefits them, and opens up to her own experiences of how she either had to conform or be herself. And of course, Tooth Fairy chose the latter. She also tells Flutter Page to look at the fish tank in another way. Identity is so important in this patch because our main characters all have identities that they have chosen for themselves. They each have a name that they have later taken on in life. For Flutter Page, finding a different perspective is to also be herself, because identity is something to never yield. Heading towards the future means growing up, means teeth falling, and new life. After Tooth Fairy's talk with Flutter Page, her last baby tooth falls out, signifying growth and a step into the future. Flutter Page comments that she thought that they have all fallen off, showing how she thinks that she has already matured. But this teeth shows that in the past, that wasn't true, but now it is. Tooth Fairy really makes me think about 1.2, one of my favorite patches of all time, as identity is one of my favorite themes as well. Tooth Fairy uses her past experiences to guide others to grow to self-actualization, like what she has done for Blondie in 1.2. But how does this all tie in with unity? Unity is when people of different backgrounds come together to achieve something great. In 1.5, it was the revival of the Uluru Games, from arcanists of different economic backgrounds like Spathodea and Desert Flannel, humans like Ezra, and of course the sacred flame Willow herself. For 1.3, it was all of London coming together, with how Mr. Fogg gathered the help of the citizens to borrow their household items for his air purifier, Tooth Fairy from the Foundation, and even the star Caroline Bartley came over. And Flutter Page helped others with an arcane enchanted cloth. Seeing them all work together is so endearing. From the street that once scorned those like Flutter Page, they all came together united with one goal: to save the Uluru qualifiers. This is where the cultural background for the UK really shines, since I can't really imagine this happening in another place to this degree. But, hold on. We're missing someone. Willow also participated. In fact, she was the one who warded off the Ashen Beast. The thing is that Willow was performing for herself. She didn't care about what anyone thought of her anymore. She didn't care if she was called names. All that mattered was that she wanted to perform. I'd like to believe that Willow absolutely knew what she was doing. In her character story, she lost her leg as she was performing a ritual to heal the plants around her. And I feel that she was doing the same thing here, seeing as the ritual she performed was one passed down in her family. To me, Willow is one of my favorite plant arcanists of all time because of how much she embodies her afflatus. From her design, origins, and story, it's not hard to see how much detail that Reverse 909 put into her. And of course, it's not just Willow that I love as well. I've already mentioned how Flutter Page's afflatus and abilities are also correlated with her character, and I think it's something great that Reverse 999 does. As the London qualifiers for the Uluru Games come to an end, so does this video. Overall, Chronicles of Uluru London Dawning is a patch that I absolutely love because of all of its Well-Level 1 themes, its amazing characters, and the door of possibilities that it opens for us when it comes to world building. It was so endearing seeing all the characters interact, and I am absolutely looking forward to seeing the next Chronicles of Uluru in the future. Since the menu theme of the event was a remix of the main theme for 1.5, I'm so excited to hear what other remixes we'll get for it. Simply put, this patch shows us the power of when people go together.